Natalie.
Oh, hi everyone. Welcome to your Southern California home advocate and investor report with our investor expert and advocate, Steve Love. How are you, Steve?
Hey, Lee.
With all of that said, his information's in the description. If you're interested in finding out how to invest in real estate anywhere in the country, give him a call or type in home advocates. Simple as that. You can find Steve's information right there. How are you, Steve? Doing
Yeah,
good?
call me. It's the holiday season and I get fewer calls this time of year, it
I
seems.
don't know why. We talked about it last week. I love this time of year. I think people need money. I think this is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. Uh,
Less
especially,
competition. Get out
yes.
there and do it.
Well, I mean, forget California, somewhere else in the country. I mean, they've got extreme weather conditions. People still need money. I think it's a great opportunity this time of year. It just slows down.
And we definitely have weather this time of year in some parts of the country, so they got nothing to do except sit in their house and call us, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to do something special for the investors this time around, which is let's talk about the anatomy of the deal. So, when you're looking at a deal, right? My pet peeve, as you know, is for me to go to an event, I speak, people go, that's great. Am I going to get 20% below market value? That's not how it works. That's I cannot tell you how many times I have been at an event throughout Southern California and Arizona and Florida and everywhere else where investors will come up and they just have this number in their brain, Steve. How does the deal start for you?
Well, it depends which eyes I'm looking at it. Um, Put aside we're talking about investors now. We're not talking about agents. And let's talk about, um, am I looking at it as potential to flip, or am I looking, and there could be wholesale or retail, or am I looking at it as something to keep?
Okay, so let's talk about it from that angle. This time of year, based on this market, what's the most successful strategy from your perspective?
Oh, and by the way, you mentioned the word 20%. Um, who was it telling me? Yeah, I don't like you investors because you guys always want something like it at 10 or 20% below market. Hmm. If one is going to flip and you buy something at 10 or 20% below market, you're almost guaranteed to lose money. You really are. Because based upon, and I won't go into all the factors why, but we like to take what the after repaired value, ARV, we call it, and we take one formula that a lot of investors use is to take 70% of that minus the repairs you're going to have to make, minus the profit you want to make. They call that the Mayo formula, maximum allowable offer formula. And that works well most of the time. Uh, in greatly heated markets, when things are going up 10,000 a month, you can fudge those numbers quite a bit. Uh, so from a flipping perspective, you'd look at it like that. But even in some markets, I remember a property that we had in 2000, was it eight? Somewhere along there, that the market was going down so quickly, we thought we were ahead of it, but we were always behind it every time we dropped our price. So you got to watch out for those kind of markets as well. We're not in that kind of market right now. At least we're not here in California or Las Vegas. But I don't know what's going to happen next year. We can talk about that if you want. Now, the other way to look at it is for wholesale and you got to, that formula goes for both wholesale and retail, which you're going to do. The reason a lot of people like wholesaling is they usually don't have to come up with any money. They can just basically get the property under contract and then sell their contract or flip their contract to another investor, someone that wants to, to do deals. And they'll have a list of investors, usually the wholesalers do. Now, looking at it from a keeper point of view, which is what we encourage folks to do. What most of my early mentors always did was encourage folks to keep property, because that's where the real wealth is. You got to learn, there's some skills there too. You got to learn how to manage, how to pick tenants right, and so forth. And because if you don't manage your tenants, they will manage you. And when I talk about management, people often say, well, that's no big deal. I'll just hire a manager. Well, as Jack Miller used to say, there's no such thing as a good manager. No one cares about your money, your property as much as you do. So you've got to manage yourself. Well, he would have his wife manage. And I know people that have other people, family members manage. But if you're getting into apartments, okay, I think at his height, Jack had just over 100 rentals, so his wife could handle it. And they taught the tenants to manage themselves. But if you're having apartments, then obviously you do need a professional manager. And to get those, talk to other investors that have had success with that particular management company. Anyway, getting back to we recommend keeping a property. You got to look at the current market rent. Okay, what can you get for it, and what are your payments? And you want a good spread there, because there was one guy that used to sell property, then used to say, okay, I can buy this property, and I'll use round numbers. The rent's $1,000 a month, and your payments are $900 a month, so you got $100 cash flow a month. No. First of all, that doesn't take into account any profit. But are you forgetting repairs,
insurance?
vacancy?
Oh yeah,
insurance.
good God.
You might have to deal with.
But even still,
outside
Steve,
maintenance.
even at those low prices, which I would never do. I know I joke all the time about investors making these big spreads. If I looked at that, I would go, well, still it's 5%. I'm making 5% on the amount, but is it 5%? When you've watched so many great minds, better than mine, truthfully, better minds than mine, do they take all those things into account and realize what the cash flow is on the overall investment?
The experienced investors do. And they are looking for a certain amount per door and that might be a humble amount. Now we're in a single family business. I know other people that are, buy apartments, anywhere from 2 to 4s, to 100 or more. And if you're dealing with 100 or more doors, you might be happy after all expenses, after all management, after all repairs, after all insurance and maintenance and so forth. You might be happy with $100 a month per door if you've got 100 doors. Maybe if you have single family houses, you want, after all expenses, maybe you want more, 200 or 300 a month. And with the way rents are increasing here, well, I live in the San Fernando Valley, but everywhere. I mean, we're talking, I can't, rents used to be a few $100s a month, and now they're a few $1,000s a month. Keeping property is where it's at.
The last time I did an investor event, it was not one person or two person. Where does this proverbial, I'm only going to do it if it makes 20% on my money start from? Is there somewhere in the history of investing where somebody said, that's the number, and unless it's 20%, sort of a positive net cash flow, or on the flip, I'm not going to do the deal?
Well, I guess every investor has their own criteria, but using a percentage criteria like that, are you talking about 20% on your money?
Right.
And I would still make sure that all the other numbers fit.
Absolutely.
The other numbers being, your, how much you're paying for your mortgage, your financing, as well as your repairs and all your insurance and yard maintenance and so forth.
That's why I think ideally, especially for me, I can only speak my strategy, which is 1 to 4 unit. I love 1 to 4 unit, right? I get a unit, I can rent out the other 3 units. I get to live for free. We talked about this last week. That's my car property. That's my living expense property. I think that's a sound strategy, but I'm worried because, well, not worried. I have done many investor events, being me, and they get caught up in these numbers, and I don't know where these numbers start from. I'm not going to touch it if it doesn't do XYZ. Well, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And
If
some
I
of
do
the,
a deal and it gets me a new car, I remember doing an event for Robert Fragoso in Orange County. The room was filled. As I was driving to the event, I had a land person hit me for a sale. And Robert goes, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to stand on a chair and go, I'd like a brand new Escalade. And I'm going to flip the deal over to them." And he goes, "I don't think anybody's ever done that." I said, "Nobody's ever done that." I said, "But the reality is that's what it is to me. Give me an Escalade. I'm going to give you 20 acres, R15, deal's yours. Good luck." And he goes, "That is a crazy way to look at it." I go, "No, it's not. It's actually a very rational way to look at every deal. My daughter's taken care of. I'm taken care of. And now I'd like a trip to, the Maldives on an island. I know what that number is in my mind. Here's what you're paying for. I've got a deal." And I don't think investors see it that way. They just see, here's my net, here's my bottom line. It's got to be this percentage. If it doesn't fit this cookie cutter, I'm not interested. Okay, that's your choice.
well, you're talking, I mean, maybe Robert wasn't too familiar with exchanging, but some of my early mentors were used to go to these exchange meetings, and they still have those today. But and they would do what we call horse trading. Um, you'd sit down with a seller. What do you need? I need a new truck because I'm in the
Right,
delivery
right,
business.
right.
And
I have no big. I get a lot of deals across my desk, and people ask me all the time, "What do you want for it?" I don't know. I didn't go that far into the thought process, for goodness sakes. I'd
and
like to take my daughter to. Here's a common one right now. I'd like to take my daughter to Taylor Swift, and I want her to sit in the front row. Done. Ooh, maybe I missed out on this deal. You were a little quick on that one.
that's a $20,000 ticket, isn't it?
Certainly.
But and like Jimmy Napier used to do a lot of horse trading, and if you needed a new truck, he could go out and find a new truck for very little money. He
Yeah.
would trade other things that he had to get truck, and he had the contacts to get the truck or to get a piece of land or maybe a different house. They wanted to downsize. Well, I have a house. How about we trade houses and I'll take over your mortgage and you can have this house, that type of thing.
That's the paperclip pen house. Can I trade up mentality? And I think investors forget that. What I've learned, certainly in the last, I don't know, decade of doing these events and meeting investors, why do investors think their money is important? Like, I've got cash. That's great, but so does everybody else. If I went to the market and I sold a house on a flip, I grew up, certainly you've been in the industry as long as me, but in 88, when I started, yeah, it was a big deal when you had cash because it took, a week to get a wire and you had to wait. And there were all these things, but that mentality is kind of carried over from horse sense to I've got cash. Okay, but I'll have cash here in an hour on a wire. I mean, it's not a big deal. And what I wonder is there a mentality that people don't get that has gotten them away from that horse trading sense?
You're reminding me of a story Pete used to say where he would talk to a seller and the seller says, well, I want cash. A lot of sellers say, I want cash. I want all cash for my house. And he would say, okay, well, what are you going to do with the cash? Well, if I come back next week, if I give you a pile of cash, put it here on the table, and you give me your house. If I come back next week, will the cash still be here on the table? And I'll say, no, obviously not. It's not going to be here. And he goes, oh, why not? What are you going to do with the cash? I thought you were going to build a shrine to the cash or something. And they would say, no, I'll put it in the bank. Really? What are you going to, how much are you going to get in the bank? 1% or so? Leave it in the house. I'll give you 5%. You know, with that kind of logic, you can, if you can have the seller see that you can give him a lot more than he was going to get for that cash. If he says, okay, I'm going to buy the truck, maybe you can get him a better truck or a better deal on a truck. And also, since I'm in the house business, and renting houses, I really want to emphasize taking all expenses and reserves are important. Bank financing will make you do that, but reserves for things like vacancies. Because if you're even getting a good deal, let's say you're getting, I'll make up a number, $300-400 a month cash flow. Well, great. One vacancy for 1 month, there goes your profits. Or maybe what if you have to put in a new air conditioner or something? That could wipe out your profits for several months. So you just got to be really careful, set aside those reserves for when those things come up, those vacancies and repairs and so forth.
It's a great topic, right? Having horse sense as compared to, I mean, when you get into winter, especially, I forget California, we're unique, and Nevada and Arizona, we're unique. I admit it. We don't have tornadoes, for goodness sakes, during the winter.
And frozen pipes.
And frozen pipes.
Mhm.
But if you're looking at unique opportunities, you've got to think beyond that cycle when there is a great opportunity. And right now, based on people trying to, I think investors don't get the fact, if they've done their marketing correctly or they've got their pipeline correctly, that, hey, I got a property here in whatever state, fill in the blank. It's an opportunity. Great. But it's winter, right? So I got to get through winter. You got to look at those perspectives. Here's what you can rent it for when it's not freezing. I think you have to look beyond the normal box right now. And that goes back to the question we started with, which is, all right, the economy is really weird, but if you can get a great deal is still a great deal.
And what's a great deal? If a property is worth, I'll make a round number, $1 million, and you offer 2 million, is that a great deal? And the answer is it could be. Maybe not 2 million cash, but if you can get the payments low enough where you can still make a positive cash flow, that's fine.